Alright, so welcome back. So today we're going to do a little different in perspective of our code. I'm not gonna use my own code editor anymore. I'm gonna use my local editor and publish to GitHub if you want. You guys see more direction about how to you can actually access all the code online. Just like codeprint.io, but you can also edit if you want. So yeah, see the description for my instruction. Anyway, so remember the video 0 I'm talking about? I'm using Komodo Edit 11. This is a home page, like home tab. If you open the Komodo Edit 11. So what I'm gonna do in this video is introduce some pseudo class and pseudo element. Notice I'm not gonna introduce all the element because there's literally 30 or more pseudo element and class you can use. I don't have time to introduce all of this. I just want to give you a basic idea what is pseudo element and what can they do in CSS. And frankly, they are quite important because they can make your web page actually a little bit interactive before you learn JavaScript. So let's start with create a new file. Now, as you can see, it's have default name text-2.txt. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna doc type HTML. I'm gonna click save button. I'm gonna go to HTML tutorial. I'm gonna say bold.html. It does not have to be index.html. It can be anything.html. Hopefully you knew that. So let's create HTML. Let's create a head tag. And also, I'm not gonna link a separate CSS style sheet. I'm just gonna write my CSS code right in the head tag. So I need a style. Good. Now we're set. I want to also be able to see all these websites, to see my live editing, so I can click view in browser. Well, let's see, save. Can I see? This should be save. And I'm gonna use in Komodo tab. It's not live editing though, cause I need to click save it. Click save first. Alright, anyway, so now we're ready to type some code in. So now it's empty web page because I didn't type anything I didn't type anything yet, so the web page just like blank. Now I'm gonna type in article, which is introduced to HTML5. It just said I'm writing an article. I'm gonna say paragraph. Hello world. In this video, I'm going to introduce you to pseudo-class and elements. And pseudo-class and for typing. An element can make your website a little bit more interactive. Alright, so I typed through paragraph. You can see it's nothing showed up yet. I didn't click save yet, so I'm gonna click save. Voila, now I got 3 paragraphs. But here's what I want to do. I want to bold the first paragraph. So I don't want to use B tag because I felt it's overusing B tag because B is just like bold certain words just a little bit something though, a little bit word in the paragraph. It's not used to bold the whole paragraph. So I'm gonna use a CSS style to do that. So I'm gonna create a class name for this. Let's say first for first paragraph. And remember class name, we need to use dot first. And let's go ahead and start writing some style. So I'm gonna create a font size. Let's say 120%. You notice I'm using percent as my unit. The percent mean okay. So so whatever the dot is telling the browser, say, hey, whatever the whatever the tag that first this class included, set the font size to 120% of its regular text font size. For example, if this paragraph's font size is, let's say, 15 pixel, then it's going to multiply by 120%, which is 18 pixel. All right, that's an example. So, and then I'm also gonna bold this using font weight. Let's say bold. Obviously, it's working, right? Yay! I successfully bold the hello world. But suddenly, I found a mistake here. I didn't introduce myself. So I need to introduce myself first. So let's say, hello world. This is Dev with me. Actually, this is Dev with me. Now, I want to bold the first paragraph as always. So now what I need to do is delete this class name and paste it right here. Now it works, but I feel like it's inconvenient because if I want to say, hey, I don't think I need to introduce myself, and I delete this paragraph, and now nothing is bold anymore. And I need to recreate a class name, etc., etc. So now that's where the pseudo-classes come in handy. So a pseudo-class is a selector that selects elements that are in specific states. For example, they are the first element of their type, or they're being hovered over by the mouse pointer. They tend to act as if you had applied a class to some part of your document, often helping you cut down on excessive classes in your markup, and giving you more flexible, maintainable code. Alright, so what's that mean? Well, now I just introduced a real-world scenario to you. There's a pseudo element always going to bold the first paragraph that's in the article tag, and that is called first child. Now I'm gonna do this. I'm not gonna change. Now let's see what we're changing. I delete the class name, so HTML document won't changing besides delete that class name. So now what I'm gonna do is it's not first anymore. And you think about the selector. The selector will be this article P first child. Let's take a look. So what am I just done? Article, so I'm selecting article tag, but yeah, I'm selecting article tag. Then I tell the browser, hey, find all the paragraph tag for me. And it did, and do what? Do what pseudo classes? Do first child. And once I find first child, apply these CSS property to declaration to them. That's a lot of stuff. And what is actually happening? Well, let's save and see what happened. Wow, it did exactly the same thing as our first. As our first paragraph. As our first time we using the class. So I'm gonna save this first, and so we will create a brand new. We will be let me open a first child. So now we already knew what our to do is. So I'm just gonna copy the CSS code. And then I'm gonna say article, paragraph, first child. Now it did exactly the same thing. Let me change it HTML a little bit to first.child.html. Now, as you can see, I add a header, says pseudo stuff, but it's exactly the same thing. And how can I prove it's working? I can add a new paragraph. Let's say, this is my new first paragraph. And does not even appear for some reason. Yeah. And voila, it's working indeed. And I can also delete some paragraphs. I want to delete these two. Save. Refresh it. Now it works. Alright. So that when pseudo-class will come in handy, especially the first child. If you want to always bold the first tag inside of a certain tag. And yeah, we must use a nested tag. Alright, we must put like a P inside of an article or div. That way the first child will work, else it will not work. And we have first child. Obviously, we have last child. Well, the only difference really between first child and last child is this. I'm gonna say dot. So everything is same. For first child, this is our original code, except I'm gonna change first to last. And if you take a look of this, let's refresh to last child. Now, indeed, it works. It bolds the last paragraph. So it's obviously going to find the last paragraph inside of the article tag and bold it, apply this property to it. Alright, so we have first child, we have last child, we have one more child, and that is called only child. Alright, so now, if you remember from the video 0 or video 1, this is standard configuration of the HTML web page. Not really, you don't need to include style tag, but yeah. So we are going to edit something, and our ultimate goal is this. I want to both certain. I want to make it italic. Let's make it italic this time, and for certain paragraph. So what does mean insert paragraph? Well, this is sound like a little bit complicated, but we're gonna italicize a div tag inside of a div. So what does that mean? Here's where we'll introduce your only child. So I'm gonna create a div. Inside a div, I'm gonna create another div. Say this paragraph, this div, this text will be italicized. Hope I don't make any spelling mistakes. And I'm gonna create a div outside of a div and say this text will not be italicized. So, and then we're gonna use the only child. So we're gonna say article p only child. And inside of it, I'm gonna say font style to italic. Alright, so what did I just done? Well, let's take a result first to see what actually is happening. Let me change this to only child. Alright, so, oh, sorry. I need to do this. I don't have article anymore. And this time it should be working. Yes. So what did I just done? Well, the only child is going to find the div tag that's actually inside of a div. So this is a selector. Alright, so this pseudo class gonna say, hey, I need to the user type div in front of me. So I need to find a div that is inside of a div. That is when this came from. So I need to create a div inside of a div in order to let that work. And we'll create a paragraph that's outside of the div. You see, this text will not be italicized. What if I create one more div? Is this text supposed to be italicized? Well, I want you to positively guess what will actually happen. Do you think it will italicize or not? Alright, let's take a look. And it turns out the whole program crashed because none of them be italicized. Because he cannot find the only child anymore. Because we have created two div inside of a div. So I cannot do that anymore. And yeah, in fact, none of them italicized. Because it's not only child, it's two childs. What if I create another div? Is this text supposed to be italicized? Well, take a minute and guess. Is that still mean only child? Will this text be italicized? Let's refresh it. Yes, it turns out both of these texts are italicized because this is a div inside of a div. So it's two individual tags. So this is just gonna read the whole document and find the div tag and find the div tag inside of the div tag and italicize them all. Alright, so that's only child. We have some fun with them. Hopefully using it we have some fun. Now we are going to do something with form. Let's say, suppose. So I created an example form. I didn't even have button because, I cannot submit to anywhere. So, alright, so let's go here. Invalid.html. Now, as you can see, I got three forms. Three text area. Actually, I'm gonna say input type equal to submit value equal to submit, and create a line break tag. Save it. Rerun this. Great. Now I have a button. What I want to do, let's make them required. Alright. So if I click submit, it won't work. Actually, let me do it required. Alright. So, as you can see now, I have some button. And let me delete this button also. Just for demonstration of pseudo class only. So I'm gonna introduce another pseudo class to you, and that is called invalid. What's that mean? As you can see, each of them each of the input area have different type. I won't require text for your name, obviously. You won't have number in your name. Actually, you will, but you could just text it as text. An email address, and a URL. It turns out HTML do support a lot of type for the form, and these just 3 of them. And let's take a look. What will happen? But as you can see, now if I refresh this page, nothing will happen. Let's hit this page yet. So now nothing will happen. But here's what I want to do. I want to use invalid pseudo-class to make if chat. Do I type email or not? If I don't type email, do something. Do I type a proper URL or not? If not, do something. Do I type proper text or not? If not, do something. So now what we're going to do is we're going to select input. And we're going to use invalid. And let's see. It has some error. No. Alright. So whenever some user didn't have the information that I want to them to type, I'm gonna say background color. Let's change them to red. I'm gonna say border, say 1 pixel. Let's create double. Let's use double, and let's say red. And yeah, that's it. So what this invalid does is if I type, so pretty much all the text, I can type pretty much everything because everything counts as text. So technically this does not apply anything to name. Let's see important stuff. Ooh, this is interesting. What just happened? Did I type a proper email or not? Well, if you think I do type a proper email, try to send an email to me using this. Just like ask. Like, obviously, everyone knows it's not a proper email address because guess what? I need at least including it. So that means I know the email sender know who is my email provider. And I can say google.com. Actually, I'm going to say Gmail. So this is example of gmail.com. Don't try to send to this. This Gmail is not my Gmail account. I'm pretty sure someone has it. Anyway, and this is URL. So what URL does, well, it does pretty much the same thing. For example, if I type google.com, it will not work because like we know pretty much every browser, if you type google.com, it will be able to redirect you. It will be able to redirect you to google.com, but HTML is a little bit strict on that. So you must type https://google.com. If you want to even be more stricter, you can type www. That way, it makes sure that it's a proper URL. Alright, so we talk about a lot of things. For now, we talk about lots of things. But technically, except the invalid, user doesn't do much, right? Like when we did only child, the user will see this tag will be italicized and that's it. Last child, the user will say, okay, last paragraph will be italicized and that will be bold and that's it. And this, the first paragraph will be bold and that's it. So here's what pseudo-class can make you interactive. Let me open, let's see. I'm gonna open hover.html. So here is a layout for hover. Standard layout, standard configuration, and I only have a link in here if you'd like to take a look. I'm gonna go to hover.html. As you can see, click this link to visit Google. And if you want, you can click it, and indeed, it takes me to Google. Good. Let me head back. Alright, so with an Ahrefs link for that. But I want to make user a little bit interactive on link. For example, I want to create when the user hover in this link, I want to change background color to yellow, for example. So since it's hover, obviously luckily there is a pseudo class support that. It's called a::hover, and just type my property into it. Background color. I want to change it to yellow. Save it. Let's see if the alert goes out. Great. And let's refresh it. Okay, nothing's happened because I didn't hover yet. Let's see if we hover. And yes, indeed, it turned to yellow. And in fact, there's much more on the when you want to dealing with the hover. So now if you want to change the text, when the user visit, change the color, something like that. You can also use different URL tag. If you can go to documentation to check that out. I don't want to spend more time on that. On hover, and also for form, we also have like to check if it's that blank, do something. All right. And then let's go back to, I'm gonna create a new file. This actually, I talk a little bit even more on input on forms. So let's just say, let me do this. Doc type, HTML, /HTML. Let me save it. I just need to type something in order to save it. And the chance that this tutorial is. Let's save this as focus.html. And let's finish out the rest of the configuration. Head, style, body. Great. Now, what is standard layout again? Now I'm gonna actually I can just copy and paste. I forget about that. I'm just gonna copy out the form to here. This time I want to do a little bit different though. What I want to do is when user, let me save this so you can see what is focus. When the user click it do something different. Now as you can see, if user click it, as you can see the border change to blue, like bluish color. What I want to do is I want to change the border a little bit. So how can I do that? Well, we have actually change the color a little bit, background color. So we have input and we call focus. That did exactly that. For example, if I want to type red, let's see what will be happen. Refresh it. And now, as you can see, I'm typing red character. And thanks to input. Thanks to focus. And yeah, this do apply to every input. If you want to just apply to certain, you can also do that. Just apply to email if you want to do that, you can also do that. And so I talk up a lot on pseudo classes. And if you take a look on here, which is %20, %26, %20, that means some symbol, by the way. But we also need to know some element. So I'm gonna, now in here, so I'm gonna create a new file. And let me see. Let me create a doc type first. And I'm gonna save this as first child. First child, and let's just say first child and first line. Ooh, I forget the extension. I'm sorry. Remember, you also need to add extension. So let's say first child, first line. .html. First child, first line. .html. Good. So what this does is we actually combine the pseudo class and pseudo element. So I skip the pseudo elements individually, but well, you can see most of this. And for example, I'm gonna use the first child. Let me copy everything. So this is my from first child. So well, what I want to do is I want to, if I type a long paragraph, let's say this is a super duper long paragraph. This is a super duper long paragraph. For example, we could just type like that. Forever. Alright, I think this should be enough. So let me save it. I want to type a really long paragraph. You'll see, you will know why. Just a minute. So first child, first line. Did I save it? Oh, okay, I saved to wrong location, I guess. Let's go to desktop. Wrong address, I'm sorry about that. Here we go. We should have. Alright, now as you can see, this is a super duper long paragraph. And actually, I should delete this stuff because I don't want. Technically, I should not. So, here's the bold, but it's saying, hey, that's so long. And that's making my website a little bit messy. So what should I do then? Well, here's what I'm gonna do. I only want to bold the first line. And think about that. First paragraph and first line was a relationship. Well, first line is obviously inside of the first paragraph. So we can do this. Can do first child and 2:, first line. What this does is this apply the first child property, exactly the same, but then apply the first line, which is mean do bold but for first line only. Let's see, does that actually work? Let me refresh it, and indeed, it works. It's only capitalized, bold, the first line of the first paragraph. Alright. So, and I will introduce you to the last property we're going to learn. And we're going to learn today, and we did a lot of things today, which is great. Save this first. Let's say I'm gonna say before.html. And as always, you can also visit all of them into my GitHub repository. It's obviously available right there. So I'm gonna use standard layout. And let's create a style. And let's create a body. Good. So here, I'm gonna create a paragraph that has a class called box. And for example, content in this box is in my HTML webpage. Alright, obviously, because I only type this paragraph, so it's obviously inside of it. Let me just do a quick save and see what we have. So let's do this before cutting this box in HTML webpage. There's actually so what if I want to add something in front of it? Well, you'll say obviously you just basically type another paragraph in front of it. Well, that's right, and that's what we will usually do. But there's a fancy way, and if you want to, you can actually do it more fancier way using pseudo-class. We're going to the box, so we select this box, and this is pseudo-class and have 2 columns, and we'll type content. Do we need this? Yeah. This should show before the other content. So, what do you think it will do? Well, it's actually self-explanatory. I will do a little bit spoiler. So, what will happen? Do that. Let's save it. Let's run it. Now, as you can see, this show before this content, and this is called before. And obviously, I also have an after, but I'm not going to introduce you to here because you just basically change before to after. Alright, so that's basically all the pseudo class and element I'm going to introduce you today. Again, there also have a bunch of pseudo class and element, but I just don't have time to introduce all of them. And so thank you for watching this video.